Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much. It's the day, one day after Yom Haatzmaut, after Israel's Independence Day. I often like to joke, since I like this holiday so much, I often like to joke that in Chutz La'aretz, outside Israel, whether it's Sukkot or whether it is Pesach or Shavuot, in Israel it's one day, and outside Israel in the Gola, it's 2 days. So, and it is called Yom Tov Sheini Shel Galuyot, the second day in all the other countries where Jews reside in the diaspora. And so today really is the second day after Yom Haatzmaut, and because of that, it's still a holiday. Although this morning in the davening we already said Tachanun, but I still quietly after that said Hallel again. So it's the only time when I say Tachanun, both with the community and privately. The state, Israel state, in Jewish thought, prayer and music is the theme. Basically, we are talking about something that we have experienced that is not just a political thing. God has arrived, according to some rabbinic authorities, and I will expand on their names a little later. God has arrived in order to offer the redemption to the Jewish people from all kinds of governments throughout the world. God chose his people to re-put him in his land, in the land which he gave as an inheritance to the Jewish people. There is a very clear condition for the Jewish people. I will read you one sentence, but don't get upset, because you will, I will explain to you. Israel, the Jewish people, cannot manage or run the country like its first people who lived there. That doesn't mean to say the Jewish people who were in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel, as the first one. The first one, before the Jews came, when they came out from Egypt and eventually they came to Israel, the Jews came into a land which had in it just idol worshippers, Ovdei Elilim, people who worshipped idols. But the Jews came in because it was the will not of the Jews, but the will of God. According to rabbinic tradition, it is God, of course, who is in charge, and the idea of arriving in Israel is God's direction. It is, he is the owner of the land. This is the body of political thoughts before kings were appointed in Israel, actually from the days when the Jews were wandering in the desert. Now, all the prophets, and I will count all of them in a minute, but mainly there are two prophets, Yeshayahu, Isaiah, and Micha. Both came out with the same text, Be'acharit hayamim, in the end of the days. Ve'haya be'acharit hayamim, at the end of the days, Nachon yiyeh har bet Hashem, the mountain where the house of God will be, in the highest of the mountains, that means Yerushalayim. And then they all say, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. The Torah, the teaching of God, comes from Zion, from Zion, from Yerushalayim. And the same text comes from Yeshayahu and the prophet Micah. What is Yerushalayim? What is the essence of Yerushalayim? What does Yerushalayim teach us in terms of behavior, in terms of learning that it is an inheritance? I'm sorry, Beatrice will answer it. I think it's your brother. It's South Africa on the line. Hello. Go to another room. Sorry. Yerushalayim is called Ir HaTzedek, this town of justice. And Yeshayahu has a pasuk, Ve'ashiva shoftaich kevarishona, ve'yoatzaich kevatchila. I will bring the judges as the beginning and all the advisors as the beginning. And after I appoint the judges in the new home of the Jewish people, which is the Israel, it will be called the city of justice, Kiryah Ne'emana, the metropolitan of faith. Now, the Jewish people are building the state after the Galut, after being in the diaspora. We go along, we experience today, according to many rabbinic authorities, we experience the realization of the prophecies of the prophet. But the idea is that it cannot come in one bang. It has Yeshuat Hashem ke'eref ayin, the salvation will be very quick, but the idea of arriving in Eretz Israel, establishing the Jewish state, can only be slowly. Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch from Frankfurt asked a very interesting question. Is it possible that the lifestyle, the religious lifestyle of Jews can cooperate with the state? The religious one is a spiritual one. The state is a political one. What is there? And his answer was yes. This is like in music, a harmony. There is no contradiction between a life of Torah and mitzvot and to be faithful citizen of the state, of the Jewish state. The godly idea is also a national idea. And people don't understand in the world that Judaism is both. Judaism is nationality and Judaism is a religion. The Jews who move to Eretz Israel can be successful spiritually under the frame of a special political situation. The next question is it a religious nation or is it a free nation? And the question is really, what is free nation? And I want to tell you a little anecdote that happened to me many years ago. Everybody heard of Rabbi Soloveitchik. He had his brother, Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik, who had a big yeshiva, brisk yeshiva in Chicago. One day I never met him in those days, and I got a call from him that he was going to have a dinner for his yeshiva, and he would like me to come to sing at the dinner. So, but he says right away, you know, I have no money. So I said to him, I haven't even asked for money. So don't worry, take care of my trip and the hotel, and I will come to sing for you. When I arrived at the ballroom of some hotel, I don't remember which one, he came over to me and he says, I would like you to sing the national anthem of Israel, Hatikva, and of course, the Star Spangled Banner. I said, it will be a pleasure. I had a nice pianist, But he told me, I want to warn you. Do not say להיות עם חופשי בארצנו. Don't say להיות עם חופשי בארצנו. Don't say חופשי. Say להיות עם קדוש. To be a holy people in our land. So I said to him, why are you worried about it? Well, a lot of people who are חופשיים, they are not religious. Some of them are anti-religious. And that's not the idea. So I said, Rav Soloveitchik, להיות עם חופשי means to be free from being under other nations. It is not to be free from religion or yes, from religion. No, don't say it. So he is such a great Rav, so I sang, להיות עם קדוש בארצנו, ארץ ציון ירושלים. After that, we sat down for dinner, and the Israeli consul in Chicago was there. And he gave me. He started screaming at me, and he said, this is a disgrace. How dare you change the word of Hatikva? So I said, Mr. Consul General, you are speaking to the wrong person. He says, I'm not. You sang it. I said, go to Rabbi Soloveitchik and ask him. He told me that I must sing Liot Am Kadosh. He went to him, and I heard fighting between the Consul General and the Rav Soloveitchik. He came back, he said, sorry, I apologize, it's not you, he told you. I said to him, why don't you report it to the Foreign Office? And if they don't like me in the future to sing Hatikva in various events, then it's your problem. Anyway, that was just an anecdote about Chofshi. The idea to be an Am Chofshi be'artzeinu, a free people in our land, means to be free from Shibud Malchuyot, from being under other countries. Rabbi Yehuda Halevi spoke about the relationship between the Jewish people and the Torah, and he quoted 4 points. Number 1, the religion in the world is very often a result of the abundance, godly abundance in life. The Jewish people is the one who believes in God and follows his directions. There is in the state something that is godly, and it is based very much, if we want to read about it, on the prophecies that we find in the Bible. It is not enough to understand the idea of a state from a logic point of view. What is important is that we are people of faith, and as I mentioned before, it is faith, it is religious, and it is national. And somebody has to understand the godly issue and instruction in a spiritual way. Number 2, the Jewish people are believers, children of believers. They are the only ones that within themselves, their whole making is based on prophecies. Number 3, the land of Israel is the land of the prophets, because all the 12 prophets, Yecheskel, Hosea, Yoel, Micha, Tzfania, Yeshayahu, Amos, Yirmiyahu, Zechariah, Malachi, I think I counted 12, all those prophets, they were blooming with their prophecies in Eretz Israel, because we say, Avira de Eretz Israel machkim. When you breathe the air of Eretz Israel, your whole mind, your whole making, your whole being is enhanced. And number 4, the Torah and the mitzvot and the commandments. God, the Jewish people carry the godly power, the prophecy. And it creates this special connection, the special bond between the nation and the land. They still don't speak quite about total freedom of having your own state, but the strong bond is bound in such a way that it brings the creation of the state. The first chief rabbi of Israel, Rav Kook, Avraham Yitzchak HaKohen Kook, was the first chief rabbi. He was first the chief rabbi of Yafo, and then became chief rabbi at that time, Palestine. Quoted from Ashrei. We always, when we daven Ashrei, we say, and you know it goes alphabetically. It says, Retzon Yereav Yaseh. God will do the will of the people. What does that mean? God is the boss. Says, some of them says of the rabbis, that God gave the permission for the Jewish people to elect a king. Som tasim alecha melech. Build, create, and appoint a king. But, and the first king we know was King Saul, Shaul, and he was not terribly successful. The first successful king was David. Malchut Beit David, the kingdom of the house of David. There are other psukim. Now, you know, when we daven Shmona Esrei, we say that Tfilah, V'liyerushalayim ircha berachamim tashuv. God, we would like to come back to your town, your city, Yerushalayim, and you should dwell in it, and build it, uvnei ota bekarov biyameinu binyan olam forever. V'chisei David mehera letochat achin, and the chair of David quickly you should establish. The Sfaradim don't say v'chisei David mehera, they say umalchut Beit David, the kingdom, not only the chair, but the kingdom. And there is a difference between the two. I don't want to go into it now because it's quite a philosophical issue, but the kingdom creates the chair in which the king occupies. And so it's very important. And he said, the Talmud says in Masechet Brachot, if a person does not say, Umalchut Beit David, did not fulfill his obligation. Now, a lot of, well, at the beginning, not so many, but on the 18th century, in the 18th century, the 19th, and the beginning of the 20th century, there was an aliyah to Eretz Israel. Jews came there, but they did not come for economic reasons, but for spirituality. They were also running away from all kinds of trouble from other countries, from pogroms and other things. But basically, they came and most of them settled in Yerushalayim. These were the religious people. And those who were not necessarily so religious settled in various places within the land of Israel. What was the purpose? The purpose was historic, national, religious, and political. All four of them created this idea of Jewish nationality and religious to come and settle in Israel. I repeat, the idea of history, nationality, religion, and political. The idea is to be an independent country. We know that Christianity and Islam were against settling of the Jews in Eretz Israel. Christianity was against it, and I think that deep down they still are, but they are beginning to realize that they are wrong. They suddenly saw that the prophecies became a reality. When the prophets, all of them, spoke about coming to settle in Eretz Israel, the Christianity could not take it, because it went against their religion. Islam headed at that time in Turkey. The Pasha understood the power of people who settles and sits in the land of its birth. So the Christianity was the realization of the prophecies that went against their theology, and the Islam understood that there is power in a nation who returns back to its own land. In other words, they recognized that the land of Israel belongs to the Jewish people and not to them. Today they will deny it, but that's what it was. Now, I spoke about the spirituality and the politic things. The Megillat Haatzmaut, the Declaration of Independence that Ben Gurion, as the first prime minister of the state of Israel, read out in Sderot Rothschild in Tel Aviv, which used to be the museum. They didn't have big halls in those years. And what does it say? Be'eretz Israel, in the land of Israel, Kam ha'am ha'yehudi. The Jewish people came back. Ba utzva dmuto haruchanit ve'amedinit. It is in that land that the image of the Jewish people, spiritually and politically, was established. Ve'horish la'olam kulo, and he gave the entire world at Sefer HaSfarim HaNitzri, the book of books, the everlasting book of books, which is of course the Bible. By the way, years ago, I composed a cantata on the Declaration of Independence. As far as I know, nobody has ever written any music on the Declaration of Independence. And I performed it in Yerushalayim with a great male choir in the Knesset. So I think that it was the first time that the Declaration of Independence was sung in the Knesset, in the Parliament of Israel. I would like now to read to you something just before the Declaration of Independence. The second chief rabbi of Israel was Rav Yitzchak Isaac Herzog. Rav Herzog was, before that, the chief rabbi of Ireland, and he was brought in with the British government to Eretz Israel, and he lived in Yerushalayim. He had two outstanding sons. There was another one who was not so well known, a third one. One of them was a Rav Dr. Yaakov Herzog, who was a tremendous Talmid Chochem, tremendous expert on the Talmud, history, Jewish philosophy, Jewish thought. I met him a couple of times in London, once in Yerushalayim. And he was invited to become chief rabbi of England, but then he took ill, and then they brought Rabbi Jacobovitz, who was the founding rabbi of the Fifth Avenue Synagogue. And the second son was Chaim Herzog, who was the president of Israel. Before that, he was ambassador to the UN here. And if you remember, when there was the big controversy about Zionism and racism, it was Chaim Herzog who took it, and at the United Nations, he tore to pieces the paper as if to say it's meaningless. Rav Herzog, Chief Rabbi Herzog, appeared before the committee, the British committee, who was investigating the idea of establishing the state. And here is how a rabbi speaks to diplomats, politicians, and who knows what else. I will read it right. I have it in Hebrew, but I'll read it right away into English to save time. In a few days, gentlemen, you are going to sit in court dealing with the Jewish people and the city of Zion. and it will depend on you at the committee. The Jewish tragedies all over the world couldn't be tolerated anymore. And if you do not deal with it with justice, you are going to drop us into poverty and to an everlasting trouble forever. So it is in your hand, and you are really, to a large extent, the messengers of God. And the British people are known to be religious people. And we speak to you about it. And he says, I am asking you, in the name of whoever is holy for us, in the name of life, don't deal with us according to a daily justice that you sit in courts. This is not something usual. Raise up, become high to the duty that God gave you. God gave us the Torah, and he went on about Jewish faith and prayer. Look at the eternity. This is our faith from generations to generation. See the prophecies of the Bible. And I quoted to you before what it was. This is a question of life or death. And only this land will heal those who suffer by being in the Gola, in the diaspora. A Jewish state will not push and not force any religion on anybody. Democracy will rule the day. And the declaration, Balfour Declaration, Balfour was a foreign minister of the British, what? Empire. The British Empire, that caused an unbelievable messianic feelings. And so I appeal to you, and eventually, of course, the British government left the state of the Palestine, and immediately Ben-Gurion, despite the fact that he knew that the Arabs were going to fight to attack Israel, declared the state of Israel. If I may, I would like, we have time, to quote to you. I was very close when I was a soldier, being the Cantor of the Israeli Defense Forces, with Chief Rabbi General Shlomo Goren. Rabbi Goren, who eventually became the Chief Rabbi of Tel Aviv, and subsequently the Chief Rabbi of Israel. And for those of you who maybe knew a little bit to the Fifth Avenue Synagogue, he was a frequent visitor to the Fifth Avenue Synagogue. I schlepped him wherever I could because I remained very, very close. He was actually my boss in the chief chaplaincy of the Israeli Defense Forces. His subject, his article, I have the book here in my library, talks about the state of Israel according to prophecy and halakha. Prophecy and halakha. Imagine such a thing like that. He says that a human being until the age of 40 cannot get into the depth of the idea of what prophecy is all about. We only begin to understand the ideal that the Torah was given to us as the ethics of the fathers. Masechet Avot says, Ben Arba'im lebina. When somebody reaches the age of 40, he gets sechel. He begins to understand what it is all about. He understands the prophecy, the historic and halachic. And then he comes to an unbelievable conclusion. Listen carefully, it's just unbelievable. He says the extreme Haredim on one hand and the extreme non-religious from the left are both equal. What does it mean? Both claim that the state of Israel has no religious and spiritual idea and no standing in the prophecies of the prophet. both are against it. They reach the same conclusion, but they are both the same. So he talks like this. There are certain situations. The first Beit HaMikdash, the first temple, and the second was the first era when we were our own bosses, so to speak. Then came a second historic era when we all went to the Galut, to the diaspora, and that lasted 2,000 years. 2,000 years. So the Rambam says, Maimonides says, that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, Bimhera Yibane HaMikdash. Beit HaMikdash, the third one, will be built very quickly. The prophet Yecheskel says, Beit HaMikdash yavo mi'ashamayim. There will be a change in the nature of the world when the third temple in Yerushalayim will descend over Yerushalayim. So in other words, the Rambam says that the Jewish people will build it, and Yecheskel says that it will be built. It will not be built, it will be built by God, by Hashem, and it will be flown down. And the third one is something that is called the Messianic Era. The question is, are we living in the time of the Messianic Era, or at least the beginning of the Messianic Era, of the Mashiach, coming of the Mashiach? We sing all the time, Ani Ma'amin, that we want the Mashiach to come. And then Rav Goren says, what are the conditions for the Mashiach to come to Eretz Israel? And he numbers 5 points. Number 1, to fight and to free the land of Israel, and that has to be done by the Jewish people from all the strangers that belong there, because by then they fulfill, as I said at the beginning, they fulfill the will of God. Number 2, establish a proper government, whether it is king, whether it is president, prime minister, government, establish a government to rule the country. Number 3, the ingathering of all the people through the various prophecies that we have in the Bible. And you know, if you remember, on Rosh Hashanah, towards the end of Musaf, Vaya bayom ha'u, in that day, yitaka b'shofar gadol. A big shofar will be blown up, be blown, and uvau ha'ovdim me'eretz Ashur, all those who are dispersed, ve'anidachim me'eretz Mitzrayim, those who are away in Egypt, in other places, ve'ishtachavu la'Hashem, and they come to bow down to Hashem, where? In Yerushalayim. And I sing it always on Rosh Hashanah, and I had a lot of people asking me why I'm doing it that way. I sing it like we say the Haftarah, the nigun, the melody, the tropes, the cantillation, the way we chant the Haftarah. בשופר גדול, ובאו עובדים בארץ אשור, והנידחים בארץ מצרים, והשתחוו לדושם, בהר הקודש בירושלים. People came to me suddenly and said, I woke up when you started singing, but it was not the Haftarah. Why did you sing it that way? So last year, between Mincha and Ma'ariv on Rosh Hashanah, I told them all, and they heard the reason, because it's a prophecy, and we have a special nigun for that. Point number 4, we have to establish the Sanhedrin, the chief religious court in Yerushalayim. and it was Rav Maimon, who was the first minister of religious affairs in Israel in 1948. He wanted it, but he had halachic problems. But instead of doing it, when after Ben Gurion declared the establishment of the State of Israel, I don't know if you know, Rav Maimon, Yehuda Lev Maimon, got up and he said, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. And not every rabbinic personalities in Israel and outside agreed that with the Shehecheyanu, but he was a great Rav, and I have some of his books in my library in the city, and that's what he did. And number 5, we have to build eventually the Beit HaMikdash. So according to Rav Goren, we have already established 3 points: getting Eretz Israel free, establishing a government, and the ingathering of the Jews from all over the world. Israel has today over 9 million people. When Israel was established on the 15th of May 1948, Hey ER, 5 days in the month of ER, on Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, there were only 600,000 Jews in Eretz Israel. So look how the country grew and grew and grew. So Rav Goren says we did 3. We still have to do another 2 points, and that will come slowly, slowly. Rav Goren told me once the story that he sat for 4 hours in the middle of the night with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and they had a big argument to high voices. In other words, they started shouting. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said that nothing can be done by human beings. It has to be only from heaven and with the prophecies, based on the prophecies of the prophet. Rav Goren, being a huge Talmud Chochem, a huge Torah scholar, quoted from the Jerusalem Talmud, where it says that the Beit HaMikdash will be built before the coming of the Messiah. Before the coming of the Messiah. So you understand that there is a very, very basic argument as to how things are going to happen. After 4 hours, they agreed, as the Britishers says, they agreed not to agree. They agreed to differ. But one thing he said, we came out of the Galut, but we are not yet completely with the full times of Mashiach, but we out of the 5 points, we established already 3. So we are on our way. Now, I wanted just to mention one thing from Rav Goren. You know, when we say Shmone Esrei, and it was established by Rav Goren, and since I was he's one of his boys, I was only a lieutenant and he was a general. And the Rav Goren, we have in the Shmone Esrei, Kibbutz Galuyot, the ingathering of the Jewish people. Tka b'shofar gadol lecherutenu, blow the big shofar. The Sanes bring a flag, lekabetz galuyotenu, to ingather our galuyos. Vekabtzeinu yachat me'arba kanfot haaretz, and bring us from all 4 corners of the land. So I said to Rav Goren before he did it, but I think I prompted him to do it, although I always daven Ashkenaz, and this appears in Nusach Sfarad, and I did not know that. As an 18 years old boy, I did not that the Sfardim say, Vekabtzeinu yachad me'arba kanfot haaretz, bring us from the 4 corners, le'artzeinu, to our land. Because otherwise somebody could say, ingather us from all 4 corners of the land. Where to? Maybe Miami Beach. So they tell the joke that a man was standing at the Kotel in Yerushalayim, and he was crying and crying and crying. Somebody came over to him and says, Moshe, Was weinst? Why are you crying? He says, I want to be with my people. So the other man says to him, but you are here in Jerusalem with your people. He said, no, in Miami Beach. Anyway, this is a very, very important thing. I want to tell you, my father, of blessed memory, to him, Yom Haatzmaut was a very important holiday. He put on his most elegant suit on Yom Haatzmaut. He fought in the Haganah. He fought in the Israeli army after Ben Gurion established the Israeli army based on all the groups together, and they all got together. And he said that when he was running on a horse to bring food to his unit in 1947, 1948, the Arabs were shooting on all sides and nothing hit him. He went to Kibbutz Gezer on the way to Jerusalem, brought the food, brought it back. They were shooting and nothing happened to him. So he said that was a miracle. And to me, I say a special bracha and special tefillah on Yom Haatzmaut. And my father said to me, don't call it Yom Haatzmaut. Don't call it Independence Day. Call it Chag Haatzmaut, the holiday of independence. Not everything do we have to translate from English. In America, we call it Independence Day. That's beautiful. We love it. But in Israel, it's a Chag because it has the religious meaning to the whole thing. And we used to have dinner at home, and he told us stories. He told us that the night that Friday after the declaration, he and two of his friends shot down the first Egyptian military aeroplane that flew over Tel Aviv and wanted to bomb Tel Aviv. Imagine that. So that was another miracle. Now, a little bit about, you know, we have Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, all the letterheads. Listen to that. On the first day of Pesach, Aleph, we take the first letter from the alphabet and the last one, which is Taf. So it says Aleph and Taf on the first day of Pesach. The same kind of a day will be Taf, Tisha B'Av. The second day is Bet, and then it goes back to Shin from the end. That the second day will be like Shavuot. The third day will be Reish, Rosh Hashanah. The fourth day, Dalet, will be Kuf, which means Kriyat Torah, which means Simchas Torah. The fifth day will be Tzadik, Tzom Kippur, Yom Kippur when we fast. And Vav, the sixth day of Pesach, will be like Purim that was a month before. But when it came to Shvi'i Shel Pesach, the seventh day of Pesach, how do you compare it to the alphabet coming from the back to the beginning? Guess what? It is the seventh day is Ayin, the letter Ayin, which means Haatzmaut, independence, Haatzmaut. If that is not the work of God, I don't know what is. This is unbelievable. And therefore, I'm so excited each time I talk about it. Now, in the davening on the night, I will go a little bit to the prayer. Lecha Dodi. And Mr. Migdash Melech, Migdash Melech. We don't say Lecha Dodi. Instead, we say, Ze Hayom Asa Hashem. This is the day God did. Nagil Havenismecha Bo. We will rejoice on this day. So I have a melody. Migdash Melech Ir Melocha Kum Yitzei Mitoch Afecha Rav Lav Shevet Beyemek Abacha Ve'hu Yachmor Alaychem La Now, usually we sing Lecha Dodi, but I say, Ze hayom asa Hashem, Nagila, Nagila, v'nismecha bo. So we have Migdash Melech and Itoreri, Lo Tevoshi Yamin is small. We sing instead of Lecha Dodi, the word Ze hayom, this is the day. Then we daven Ma'ariv, the evening services. And how do we sing it? Do we daven like a weekday? Because we have to daven a weekday davening? No. Where I grew up, and maybe one day we'll have an evening Yom Haatzmaut services, not only the morning one that we do have, and it's beautiful. The Nusach of Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Barechu et Hashem HaMevorach, Baruch Hashem HaMevorach, Le'olam Va'ed. You hear me on Yom Tov davening like it. Not Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. So the idea is to do it the same as on a regular holiday. Then we say Hallel. And in our shul, we say it with bracha. This was established from the beginning of the shul. And Rabbi Jacobovitz, I think, was a little bit hesitant, but with Rabbi Rachman and through all the other Rabbonim whom I had the honor and pleasure of working with, we always say Hallel with a bracha on Yom Haatzmaut, because to experience the miracles and to talk to people who fought during the War of Liberation, that by itself is an experience. So we say Hallel. There is a beautiful melody after the Betzetz Israel. I usually sing Betzetz Israel Mim Mitzrayim. This is an Italian, Judeo-Italian melody. But there was in Warsaw, in the Nozik Shul, this is the only shul that exists today in Warsaw, besides Chabad. The conductor there in that shul, well before the war, composed a real march, as if he already knew that one day it will be appropriate to sing on Yom Haatzmaut. And in Israel, everybody knows it. Young people, kids, everybody knows. Betzetz Israel miMitzrayim, Beit Yaakov meyam loes, Hayta Yehuda lekodsho, Israel mamshelotar, and so on and so forth. Now, the Italian Jews who live in Yerushalayim on the night of Yom Haatzmaut count how many days are we, how many years are we from the Atchalta de Geula. So it is, according to my calculation, 5,780 years. Tafshin Fei, Hey, Tafshin Fei. Then we conclude with Shira Ma'alot, like we bench. Shira Ma'alot, but not on Yom Haatzmaut. We sing it to the melody of Hatikva. Shira Ma'alot B'Shovad Hashem, Et Shivat Zion Hayinu Kecholomim. Yesterday morning, when we said Hallel, and when we finished the services, I sang a tikva with all the people who were on the Zoom with me. Now, there is a haftarah, and the same haftarah that we say the last day of Pesach, we say on Yom Ha'atzmaut, or Chag Ha'atzmaut. And this is a beautiful prophecy, again, from the book of Isaiah, chapter 10, verse 12. And it says here, this is the haftarah of the last day of Pesach outside Israel. Odayom beno velamod, yenofef yado, ha'arebe Batzion, Givat Yerushalayim. And then it says, V'yatza choter migeza Yishai, from Yishai will come whom? The Messiah. V'yatza choter migeza Yishai, v'netzer mishorashav Yifre. And he will be God's man. V'nachalav ruach Hashem, ruach chokhmah uvinah. Whenever I read the Haftarah, it doesn't matter which book of the prophets, which book of the prophets, as soon as I get into the minor scale of this, I get very emotional, because these are prophecies that we are already experiencing it. And all of you, I know whoever is listening tonight, because everybody who wants to hear about Yom Haatzmaut or Chag Haatzmaut, as I call it, have been many times to Yerushalayim, and we feel God, we feel the spirituality, we feel that this is the home of the Jewish people, and of course, the home of God. And then on Chag Haatzmaut, we say, Moadim lesimcha le'alter legeula shleima, which means a good yontef, Moadim lesimcha, le'alter, immediately, it should be immediately, legeula shleima, for a full redemption. That means the Messiah, that means the building of Beit HaMikdash, etc., etc. I have more quotations that I have from Rav Kook, but I think that it is okay now. I would like only to conclude with one thing. It was Rav Kook who said the following, and it's very, very important. He mentioned the term Medinat Israel, the state of Israel. He said, our Medina, our state, its basis is ideal, that is imbued in the ideal, the high ideal of Judaism. And this is our Medina, this is our state, Medinat Israel, that God should be acknowledged as the only one. And this is the highest degree of happiness. Hashem Elokav imo utruat melech bo. Hashem is with his people, and he is the one who will blow the shofar, as I mentioned to you from another pasuk. And Rav Kook had problems with the Haredim, and he concludes, the beginning of the redemption of the Geulah is in front of us. It's walking. May all the citizens of the world know that this is not just another country. It was given to us in the holy, to dwell on the Holy Land, because it was done only by the holy God of Israel, Shedvaro Ne'eman V'Kayam La'ad, that his words are truthful and will always be forever. And Rav Rashish of Yerushalayim, Rav Frank, spoke about the establishment of the Israeli army. He was a Jew with a long beard, with a capital. I remember his son, he was a gabbai in the shul in Tel Aviv, where I grew up in Bilu. And he said, Chief Rabbi, thank God we got to the day that we have an army. And everybody understands in Israel, religious and non-religious, that it is Hashem oz le'amo yitem. Hashem yevarech et amo v'shalom. God should give strength. Hashem oz le'amo yitem will give strength to his people. Then, when we'll have strength and we'll base our being on the strength that we will build, that Hashem gave us, Hashem yevarech et amo v'shalom. he will bless his people with peace. Army, strong army, peace, but it is Hashem. You have Hashem's name twice. Hashem Oz le'amo yiten, will give strength. Hashem yevarech et amo b'shalom. In the final analysis, it is Hashem who will bless his people with peace. I want to, this concludes actually my presentation, but I promised you some more melodies. Well, I sang some melodies from the davening, but in the machzor that I have especially for Yom Haatzmaut, we have the following. First of all, I'd like to begin the prayer for the state of Israel, at least the beginning. I'm going to go to the piano, and Beatrice is going to turn around the iPad so that you can hear me and see me. Hopefully it should work okay. We are well organized here. So Beatrice, I need you to turn it around. A little more. Can you see me? Avinu, Avinu, Shem HaShamayim, Tzor Yisrael ve'Goharo. Avinu, Avinu, Shem HaShamayim, Tzor Yisrael ve'Goharo. Barech, barech, et medinat Yisrael, Reshis enichad geulateinu, Hagen aleha, be'emat chasdecha, u'be'ros aleha, sukat shel omecha. Avinu, Shem HaShamayim, Tzor Yisrael ve'Goharo. Avinu, Avinu, Shem HaShamayim, Tzor Yisrael ve'Goharo. That's one song appropriate, of course, to Chag Haatzmaut, and there were so many songs. I'm looking to find you the Karev Pezoreinu. We asked God to bring all the Jewish people from all over. The Karev Pezoreinu, mi bein hagoyim, u'nefutzoteinu kanes, miyarketei. Bekaref Pezoreinu, mi bein hagoyim, u'nefutzoteinu kanes, miyarketei haaretz. Bekaref Pezoreinu, mi bein hagoyim, u'nefutzoteinu kanes, miyarketei haaretz. Avienu leTzion yilecha, leTzion yilecha ve'ina, ve'Yerushalayim beit mikdashecha, beit mikdashecha b'simcha zmora. Avienu leTzion yilecha, leTzion yilecha ve'ina, ve'Yerushalayim beit mikdashecha, beit mikdashecha b'simcha zmora. All the best to you. Chag Sameach, even if it's the same.
Shkaya.
See you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very
Chazan.
much.
It was really wonderful, very erudite.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Yassi.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ye'asher kochacha.
Baruch tiyeh. Baruch tiyeh. And thank you very much for coming to the, I don't call it Zoom, I call it Zoom.
Zoom. Okay.
Hi, how are you? And the Magids are there. I recognize them.
Hi.
And thank you for coming.
Let's celebrate.
If the
Sukkot.
corona goes away this coming week, and we pray that it does, I'm not going to give so quickly lectures more. But if it's still going to drag, so I have already a theme for next week, you'll get a notice about it. So it's already Thursday evening. Hi. It's already Thursday.
Great.
So I wish you Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom lekulchem.
And Chag Sameach, a belated Chag Sameach. Well, today is the second day of Yom Tov outside Israel, so it's okay. It's still Yom Tov. Chag Sameach, all the best to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cantor Malovany. Thank you.
Thank you
I loved it.
Thank you very, very much indeed.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom lekulchem.
Hi, Claire. I recognize your voice.
Yeah. Yes, it's me. Yes. Ye'asher kochacha. Marvelous. Marvelous. Thank you. Thank you.
Claire, I didn't recognize your voice. It was beautiful. Oh boy. Remembrance of history.
Beatrice is saying Shabbat Shalom. Listen to her.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Beatrice.
Shabbat Shalom, Beatrice, and the entire family. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
I miss you.
I miss the shul too.
We miss
And
you too.
stay safe. And
And we look forward to celebrations.
I told somebody, Ellen, are you still there?
I'm here.
Alan.
Yes. Aaron from London.
Dr. Alan Harris this morning that he's involved with something that if it works out, I will arrange for him to get the Nobel Prize.
Wow. Mazel tov.
Okay, thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you.
Bye,
Thank,
Cantor. Bye, Beatrice.
thank you.
Lehitraot.
Lehitraot.
Good Shabbos. Lehitraot.
Lehitraot.
Good Shabbos.
Lehitraot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Claire.
It was beautiful, and I got your picture.